So since we've completely recovered now and everything is fixed, no one will notice the difference. So going into the potential mastery work discussion, I actually had an idea for the mastery work. I'd be curious on your guys' thoughts on it. And I'll quickly do my idea first in case my internet cuts out again. So, my idea was, what if Alva, and the way that Alva follows you in Temple, was actually a test for the mastery work? So you know how in Incursion League, Alva follows you around, she casts some spells, she gives you a buff, but she doesn't really do that much, and she doesn't really get in the way, she's just kind of there. My thought process was, when you get a master mission, like say you find Tora, she then follows you around almost like a D2 style companion, as like a temporary companion for that map. She gives you some temporary buffs, and you hunt down beasts. You could then start like a mini chain, and at the end of the mini chain, you fight a mini boss who drops items specific to that master. That means that every single time you encounter a master during a map, you're instantly rewarded with like a temporary buff of some kind. So it feels good to do it, and you're excited to then be like, oh, I'm nearly 3 into the chain or 5 in the chain, I'm going to get loot soon. And it wouldn't be an escort mission. They would literally follow you exactly like Alva did in the Temple. They're like glued to your character, and they just do random things.
Glued to your character?
I mean, that's what Alva did. She was just like in a set tether range and just followed you.
Can we just carry him? She jumps on their back instead.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's very RPG. Just like walks into you. Yes, let us defeat this. Alva has joined the party.
But like they've done it. They've done it. No, think about it. Though. Think about it.
It needs to like say that as well. Like,
but they did it with Zana during the whole Shaper fights and everything, and Elder fight, and then we've had this with Alva. So like they've tested the setting, it works. So they're going to do a massive master rework, and also it means they can feed you some like fun dialogue. Like everyone likes the memes with it's in the middle of a jungle or like Nico chatting and stuff. So it means that while you're clearing the map, you know, everyone can just talk some righteous crap. And I think it'd be pretty fun.
We might see another situation similar to old Zana's voice actress and voice, where they have to go back and redo all the lines for a master if they can't get the same voice actor back again.
I mean, that's fine. They did that with Zana. They could do that with the others.
I miss old Zana. But still. Yeah, no, I think that would work fairly well. What sort of loot were you thinking would be at the end? So you said like quest chains where you have like every 6th or every 5th Torah mission, you get a big pile of Torah specific loot.
Yeah,
would that be like the master modded weapons?
It could be Torah, like, so for example,
what hers does,
right,
even.
So let's say you happen to get Torah and you happen to start the spider chain. So you fight like increasingly more powerful spiders, and then at the end you fight a massive spider, and it could drop an aspect of the spider related item.
Ah, I see.
Yeah,
I see the motivation here. None of these motives are ulterior in any shape or form. No, that's fairly neat. Would that carry over into like Zana as well? Or would you keep Zana in her current form?
Zana's kind of chill doing the Shaper stuff. You could expand her storyline a little bit if you wanted to. But I feel like having it where they follow you around and do cool things, and then you fight a mini boss is a lot more interesting. So if you get an Elrond map, Elrond's just there when you start your map. He gives you a little bit of dialogue. He follows you around. Maybe like Elrond casts Smite on enemies. So it's like it doesn't do anything, but it buffs you, right? So you feel like you're working together for something, and then when he's in the zone, you're hunting down evil Templars, because he's all about like killing the bad Templars or whatever. And then at the end, you then get a Dominus style fight, and then you get some cool, specifically like, you know, have it like they have 4 unique items each or whatever, and then you get something off the loot table. You don't seem too keen on that one.
I mean, it's interesting, but like, would it?
That
like a master rework. That seems like almost a new expansion type of thing, because you can implement so many things around it. That,
yeah, it's good timing, right? Because we've got a new expansion coming out, and they're going to rework masters. It's almost as if I was like,
I like the idea generally. I think that you have to be really careful about the rewards at the end of the quest lines, because it's really easy to make it so that it doesn't actually feel worthwhile and rewarding by the end of it if the loot table isn't if the loot table is like 5 specific uniques or something, then eventually those specific uniques are going to be diluted in value to the point where it doesn't feel worthwhile. But if you make the loot table, too broad, and I don't know, it's really, really difficult to balance the rewards for that.
But that's the one decent thing about it, though. So, like, hopefully it would have good rewards, but even if it doesn't have good rewards, you would click on the masters anyway because you would benefit from their temporary buffs for that one map. Because the current system is people will engage with masters if they want to level it for crafting benches, and then they ignore them completely. Like, if you have a level 8 Haku, you have no reason to do Haku again.
Would the majority of master missions then boil down to this master has this flavor of enemy packs that he spawns or she spawns in the map?
Basically.
So
it'd basically be like, it'd be like encountering a random
complaint.
sexton or something.
Yeah. No, I don't think that would be too much of an issue, but it does sort of eliminate the identity of all the different master missions, where Haku's missions are meant to be in my opinion, not fun, but still meant to be a escort the thing from one end to the other while avoiding obstacles.
Are any of the master missions actually fun though?
No, but I don't think.
Do you see what I mean though?
Yeah, vegan. Yeah, vegan.
Yeah, okay, so like
can be fun.
It's fun to beat up an old man, yes. But
rude.
But I mean that's why I have so many shaper kills. But I don't know that GGG is going to want to do away with the identity of the different master missions.
Yeah. But you can bring the identity back. So for example, with Haku, it could be you need to claim the soul of the map boss. And it's the same thing claiming the souls of the ancestors.
Oh my god. You touched on a sore spot there.
So that way you can tie like tormented spirits into it as well, or whatever. Like you can make it work. What are you gonna say, sorry?
I am so eternally disappointed with Divine Vessels still. Seriously, I got myself, and this is partially my fault, I got myself before the Fall of Oriath release hyped up about Divine Vessels. I thought there would be some really cool shit they would do with that, where you could capture boss souls and use them like, essence and fossil crafting style, maybe, where you can like do deterministic crafting with them, or maybe use them as a mapping ingredient where you augment a map by throwing in a certain boss's soul or something like that. And you use them like 3 times to upgrade some Pantheon powers and then forget they exist. Like,
you're done forever, homie.
It's so cool of a concept. You capture a boss's soul. Why can't we use that for something better?
I agree with that.
Totally. It's such a silly thing.
Like
I mean, it made sense when it first released, but like now it needs to be looked into for sure. But maybe that's also like the justification for the rarity of them, right? Like they're pretty rare,
I guess, but that would just make it so that, if the soul of Lava Lake Kitava has some really cool crafting or mapping purpose, then it becomes a currency item. It becomes something that players might want to trade on the open market, and you've got this reason to go kill this extra long phased boss that everybody skips. I think it gives you more of a reason to care about bossing in general mapping, which has been a complaint from the player base for a long time. It's a tool they could use to help to solve that.
But even more, I think the idea that Divine Vessels only have one purpose is against the general philosophy of PoE. It's like, now this has no purpose anymore after you're done, right? It's like you can always use every other currency or most other currency have like, it's like multi-purpose, right? You can keep using them. This thing is like, oh, I am now done. There's like one purpose. You have no other, like a Chaos Orb can be used on anything, right? You keep using it, like alchemy orbs. They always have some kind of purpose outside of just their one use. There's always someone who can use it.
I mean, it's not like we're gonna be trading with them either, right?
If they had like multiple uses, sure we would.
I mean, well, if you could, yeah, of course. But like
That's
talking about
saying.
right now.
Yeah.
No,
I think it's a problem. I think it's like just a problem in general with like their overall philosophy of having currency items actually being usable past like a certain thing, right? That you can trade. There's always a use for them.
How about take the concept of like upgrading through flasks, which can be pretty powerful, right? Like the you can upgrade, I think, up to tier 2 on a weapon through like vendoring flasks with items. And then you would take these divine vessels and you would like shatter them into smaller shards of things. And that would make more sense because you would be taking like the soul of these dudes and then having little shards of them. And by using another item on top of it, you could like modify items on a base level. And that would kind of make sense too because they're rare. The divine vessels are rare. Like it would have to be something crafting oriented, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, not like the
Well,
kunai
it doesn't have to
cube,
be
but
crafting. It can also be just any way you can like interact or like augment or buff. Like a sextant is not crafting. Well, you're crafting the map. It doesn't have to be crafting an item.
I was gonna say, like, it could be used as even with these other end game systems that they could potentially be introducing, like delve and incursion and things along those lines. It could be used to augment those sorts of things. Like maybe the captured soul of a certain boss, when you run lab, gives you a 25% chance of getting another use of the divine font. Like there's so many things they could do with this. I am honestly not too worried anymore about what. I had a lot of ideas when they were teasing divine vessels when they first mentioned them before the release. I just want to see them put to some other purpose because it depresses me every time I see one drop. Which
how
is not too long.
about how about something that would be kind of like what ingredients are in WoW and like situational buffs that you would need for raids? For instance, you would be like aiming towards killing Shaper, but you know your character is not strong enough, so now you have to run a certain map a bunch of times and like squeeze out the juice of the boss into this vial, and then it would be like a 6th potion that you can throw on top of the boss, and now Shaper takes 10% more fire damage or something like that.
My worry with that is that most builds in Path of Exile, or most content in Path of Exile that isn't like depth 600 plus all or something along those lines can be trivialized by the right builds. And so most people who are aiming to do that content repeatedly are not going to bother with, the divine soul buff or whatever.
I think it will.
Yeah, I mean, just as a concept,
like
not necessarily in this case, but like as a concept where you have to put some time in outside of just gearing and leveling up your character to like work towards something that will help you in a specific fight, I guess more. Something like that. Would that work in Path of Exile? That
I can see it being relevant for
like
super deep delve bosses.
Okay. Yeah.
Like that's basically maybe I'm thinking from a standpoint that's farther removed from the larger player base than you are at the moment. But when I think about like end game bossing, I don't really even consider like Shaper to be an obstacle to a well-built end game bossing build anymore. Like that boss killing builds have progressed past the point where Shaper even like matters for a lot of them if you've put in a lot of time and you've put in a lot of investment. I know that for the average player, Shaper is still something that's possibly on the horizon and you might not even ever reach. But if we're talking about, a tool for endgame bossing, I don't think it would see a lot of use until you like reach the really almost insurmountable ones super deep down in delves.
I think they will. I think it would just be like did you remember your divine vessel?
And people don't
serious.
remember to use prophecies, and people don't like remember to get the divine.
No, because prophecies don't give you damage. Trust me, anything that gives you damage, it's like
okay. I'm not saying
you're talking from the perspective of a person
don't even
who's
use
skilled
divine vessels right now, and people don't even upgrade their Pantheon powers. I have so many people like tell me well, actually, no. Pantheon powers are almost purely defensive, but still. Like those are permanent buffs that you have to do once.
I mean, people put up
don't bother.
YouTube guides and it's like pop your thing, do that, 1 second, Shaper death, and people want to copy that. That's like, the whole Dairy thing. I just think it's terrible. That's like literally what people will do.
But the thing is, like, even if that's the beauty of the design behind Path of Exile's bosses, though, because even if you've got like this outstanding, powerful build, and maybe you've got quite a bit of gear because you work towards it, if this is your first encounter with Shaper, you're probably gonna waste all your portals if you've never practiced it, even if you've watched a guide or something like that. So having that little bit of an extra edge could be something that people would aim towards, and if they wouldn't, then maybe they would feel really stupid because with this thing they would have been able to do it, but they didn't because they were confident from the guide that Octavian posted, who skilled it a million times. You know, like
I would be fine with it existing. Don't get me wrong on that. I just think that after a league of it being in the game, it would quickly become something that would be more of an annoyance than it's worth, and people wouldn't do it very much.
Gotcha.
To
An
interject
annoyance and people
slightly,
would do it just because it gives you more damage.
the divine vessel thing.
At least for anyone coming in early, like you feel like you're compelled to do it. You don't really want to do it, but you're compelled.
Also, I think Path of Exile wouldn't do a very good job of explaining
No, I don't think so either.
how it would work, and probably a lot of people wouldn't even know that they could do that.
Okay, then how about it would power up your flasks, huh? So now instead of having to click your flask over and over for 30 seconds, you know, for every 3 seconds, now instead you juice up your flask for
Okay,
I don't
Raiz,
know,
how
a
about
number
this?
of
How
time,
about
and every
Master
time you press your
Reworks?
flask, it's
Master
blasting.
Reworks,
Oh yeah,
gang.
Master Rework.
Master
Sorry.
Reworks, the thing they're actually working on, not the shitty divine vessel bullshit.
I derailed it. That's me.
Yeah, that's
on
on you, Octavian. Okay, so does anyone else have any plans for how they would like to do Master Reworks?
Okay, do you think it's? I have a question for the group here. Do you think that it being so random and you have such a like we have a pretty hard time unless you're like really into trading and getting all the things to just determine which master we want to get. Right? It's like, oh, I just want to get to 7 on Elvion. Right? I don't really care about Miralons right now, but I want to like I want to get this one master leveled. Do you think it's a good or bad thing that it's so random?
I think you should be able to like align yourself. Another system I kind of like the idea with, if not this, was like you align yourself to a master, and then you're then with that getting reputation with that guy until you choose to do something else. Because I feel like they're probably going to want to expand lore and story on all their masters individually. So I think that's how they would do it.
Would that just make it so when you go into a map and the map decides a master will spawn in here, it's always Elrian if you're aligned with Elrian until you decide to align with another master? Or does it just weight the dice in
It could
your
weight
favor?
it, or it could be more one, but like again, you don't need to work out, instead of getting caught up on the core fundamental of exactly how it would work, I feel like they'd probably have a system kind of like that. Or maybe you would align to 2 masters or 3 masters or whatever, rather than of picking from a random pool of everything.
I feel like we need to come up with something that would be where the reputation would have a bigger impact than just that. Like, I feel like the reputation and the aligning with a master is definitely a thing that is going to happen, but it needs to be more impactful, and I am not sure what that would be.
I mean, this is a real issue though. So like currently the reputation, you just use it for hideout stuff. They could add another thing you can use it for, but there's an actual issue that a lot of people have where people who are into hideout stuff don't like doing Kata missions because Kata missions suck fucking dick, but she has some of the best decorations. So you have people who actually like the reputation system. They actually want to engage with it. They actually like the hideout stuff, but they still don't do it because the gameplay is just so unfun. The core gameplay should come first, and then the reward should come after. I want to be enjoying the gameplay I do first and foremost, and then if I'm rewarded for it, great. I don't want to be rewarded for doing something I don't enjoy because I just don't want to do it.
Sure.
What if this is like a really simple change? This probably wouldn't qualify as like a full expansion, but what if the mods contains Elrian, contains Katarina, contains all of these, were just rollable on maps?
That'd be interesting.
So you could buy maps with those mods, or if you really wanted, you could alt spam until you hit. And obviously, like contains Zana, if that even was a roll, would be a much rarer one.
See, but like, how would that work?
Well, you could use a divine vessel,
thematically?
sell it to Sana, and now you contain Sana.
There you go.
Captures
I feel
Zana
like
stone.
I feel like they do want like masters to be still like exiles, where it's a random encounter and not something as deterministic. Like a prophecy makes sense because well,
It's a random
foretelling
roll
of the
into a
future,
thing. Yeah.
right? It's like of the future. So here, just rolling something into something else. I don't know if GGG would to actually do that.
I don't think that would come along with an expansion. I think that would end up potentially being like a band-aid to the current system we have to make it more palatable. But if they're working over the system as a whole, then yeah, that likely wouldn't make it in, because probably they just fix the system, hopefully, so that it's not as unpleasant to interact with. So that maybe the RNG nature of it isn't as big a deal, because any master you find doesn't feel bad to do.
Again, I feel like you're just getting caught up in the system. The end system doesn't matter. The problem is the gameplay shit. Like, you want to be happy when you see a master. So, how would you guys change the gameplay so the actual gameplay is fun? Because most people aren't like, yay, Haku. They're like, oh, I'm just skip this.
Make them more rewarding past the crafting bench being fully upgraded, for one. Which ties into what you were talking about earlier, your specific
that's scary too,
rework
though.
method.
Right? Because like what Tarke is saying is that like the gameplay needs to be fun.
Yes,
and
exactly.
if the gameplay isn't fun, but the masters are still rewarding, now you're stuck with doing something not fun that you need to do for the rest of the league because of the rewards.
But Raiz, just okay. So if you say that, then they have to make it not rewarding, because if it's not fun, then people won't like it.
I would argue that rewarding is part of fun.
What?
You know, people.
No, but you're saying it's dangerous because if it's rewarding and we don't like it.
No, I understand
Well,
where he's coming from.
right?
If it's something that's really rewarding and is going to give you a lot back in terms of XP or loot or some other third thing they add, but it's not a fun mechanic to, people will feel obligated. They'll engage with it still. They'll get burned out.
Kind of
they
like
won't wanna play.
incursion or like running temples.
Or like,
like
you know,
lab.
sextanting
You have
your maps
people
for some
who-
people.
You have people who don't enjoy doing lab, but they have to do it because it's so powerful.
Yeah.
You want people
But-
to enjoy the gameplay. That's cool.
Yeah, but okay, so we done nerf everything in lab because it's not. Like,
No,
but
that's not what. Basically, what I'm saying, Noogie, is can you fuckheads just pitch a fun fucking mechanic? That's all I'm asking you to fucking do.
Yeah, I was just talking.
What if we had this maze
he
like?
was saying that it was dangerous to have like rewarding things coming after, which is like that doesn't make any sense to me.
I think the point that was
Makes
being made
sense
was
to
that
me.
it's dangerous to have a reward without having the gameplay fun at first, so that you want
Yeah.
to go for the reward.
Sure, okay.
Exactly.
And Tarke really wants us to pitch some gameplay so that we actually have meat to this podcast, and it's not just a bunch of hot air being thrown around a Discord chat room.
Yes, we're supposed to tell GGG how to make daily missions
Exactly.
fun that no game has ever managed to make fun.
I don't.
We gotta come up with it.
I don't know about that sweeping statement.
I mean, can you come up
Just
with a game where
Start the
daily
days,
missions were
right? Done.
fun?
Remove dailies. Just make it so that the player can actually decide when they interact with it. I don't know why it needs this daily mission.
But how can you make it so that
You talk
like
to
you-
Sana. Hey, we're doing Sana missions. We're doing Sana stuff
Yeah,
today.
but that doesn't make sense. How can
not?
Zana determine that this Elrond guy is in there unless they form some sort of union where
No, you form a
she
union
calls
with
them up
Zana.
before, and then Zana like rings them up, yo dog, be in this map at this time because my
Okay,
homie
Raiz. There
Nugiyen's
was
coming
an
by.
example where dailies was. There was a thing in Mists of Pandara for anyone who played that expansion. There was like this. I can't remember what it was called. I barely played that expansion, but there was basically a giant building full of treasure, and you could only do that like once a day. Like something short and a fun burst is good. Imagine if like treasure goblins in D3, like the treasure goblin round was like you can only do once per day. Just a short, fun spin of the wheel can be fun. Like you can make very short daily things feel good. So for example, like everyone currently to the most extent enjoys Delve. So if you can only do Delve once per day, then that would be a fun daily mission. Like you just need to make a content, something which is actually enjoyable. Like if there was one boss that spawned every day or something. Just like have something which is enjoyable and then work out the fucking daily system or whatever afterwards. Basically, what is something fun you would like in PoE?
You tell us, Tarke.
I gave you a whole system and you were like, yeah.
Give it again.
No,
Give
I
another
like,
one,
I like
but
your
this time
system,
good.
Tarke.
Okay.
You can have Tarke's system without dailies. Serious.
No, I don't care about the
dailies.
dailies. I care. I
boy.
said dailies, but I should have just said masters in general. It's like we could be having the same exact conversation about how to make exiles interactive, like nowadays, where you one-shot them anyway. It's like, do you just make them tankier? Well, that doesn't make their abilities fun. Like this isn't as simple as like Tarki going, yeah, just tell us for it. It's tough, man. You should tell your system again, Tarki. I might have not been listening. Maybe I really like it.
The very base TLDR of my system was that if you encountered a map with a master on it, at the start of the map, they'd be there by the portal, you would talk to them, they'd give you a brief bit of lore, and they'd follow you around for the rest of the map like a D2 style combat companion.
Yeah.
So that way you're always happy to see them, because you're like, yay, I'm getting the reward
So
of a
like
temporary
mercs
buff.
in D2,
Exactly.
but temporary.
Yeah.
But could they
I
also
mean,
lead
that's
your map into
part of it.
being...
I think that would make sense, like with Zana, where she's fighting with you, or like with
Alva
what was
and
that?
Incursion.
Alva, yeah.
Like the two
roll
examples I gave when I first explained the system, yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sure.
I think it's
Yeah, that would
important
be
that,
good.
you could then say, fuck off, Haku, because if he's like running around and he ghosts your boss, it'd be pretty nice if you could say, no, I don't want this map.
Yeah.
Just because it's like you put all this effort into it and you
I won't be
map a
saving
lot.
the spirit today. He'll be fine.
Yeah. that kind of thing. I think that's
it doesn't need
important.
my help.
Challenge.
It's a big spirit. It looks pretty happy in the afterlife.
Yeah.
We'll leave it there.
I think it's just important. I think it's
Break
important
his
that
heart.
players have the opportunity to say yes or no to something.
I mean, I've
And then
literally
they can
not done
engage and
a
decide when
single
they
Haku
wanna
mission
do
yet
it.
this league. So, me and Haku do not have a good working relationship. Yeah, that sounds like a more fun version of the master system than what we currently have. My only real issue with it is that it diminishes the identity between the masters. So if you can come up with, specifics for each master that would give them a bit more flavor than,
Well, this is the identity of
corresponds
every
to green
master.
monsters.
Well, that's quite easy to theme though, because so
Yeah.
because that's the thing. So they're probably gonna want to add lore and stuff to it, because that's what they did with Zana. They added the mini like quest chain in there. You had the lore, you're collecting the memory fragments. So it could be that for the Elrion, he's trying to slay evil Templars and rebuild a library. So when you encounter him, you're either killing evil Templars or you're killing bosses to collect. Instead of memory fragments, they're book scrap fragments. So he's trying to rebuild his knowledge. So his thing is all about knowledge and purity of the faith. Then for the Haku example, it could be collecting spirits from bosses. For the Varichi thing...
Wait, but rebuilding library means that hideout stuff would still be tied to masters then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why wouldn't it be?
Yeah, do we still like that? I don't
You
like
could
that.
have it that once you've unlocked it once, you have it unlocked forever. That's one thing which I feel like if you've leveled the Leo
Should you
to
just
8
be,
once, you
But
have that
then
tile
what's the
stuck forever.
reward out of leveling the master itself? Not just like it being in your map, because that's not rewarding enough.
More mastercraft options, maybe better missions as the master
You know
levels
how
up.
with Bestiary, like once you collected a certain animal, you unlocked a new recipe. You could have the same thing. Like with Elrion, once you collected the note, you then unlocked more recipes for your crafting bench. Like it's quite easy to come up with the
More
rewards.
power
for a system
creep
like
then.
that.
I would be careful with that rather than tying it just to if we're talking about the current crafting bench recipes, because, well, unless you just have a direct progression. This is again getting into specifics.
Yeah.
I think the idea is pretty good, actually, and I don't mean to sound surprised. You did come up with a good idea here, RaizQT.
Thank you, Henry.
QT.
Thank you, Nugiyen. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
But I just one question here. I don't get why you think it's so hard to keep the identity.
I would say that
I feel like you're being a little locked into like, oh, but how can we keep it exactly the same as if it's the only way to have an identity?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I just think that right now a lot of other league mechanics and things are boiling down into go place kill monster, and I would kind of be okay with it if Path of Exile committed to that.
I mean, except for Haku, tell me what the identity of each master is.
Well, they're not all fun.
No, but that's not their identity. You're speaking to the identity
No,
specifically.
Okay, so for like Katarina, it's an escort mission sort of thing, and that is like the essence of a Katarina mission. Maybe identity is a bad word, but basically they require you to interact with the game mechanically in a way that's different from just the regular core gameplay.
I mean, it is
But
exactly
you could
that
keep
though.
that. Like you
Haku
have
is
your reward to start out with, or you have to like capture these things that are like around the map,
Yeah,
or
so
and then
for
bring them
example,
back
with-
again.
with-
It's very easy
yeah.
to have the same thing
Mhm.
happen, sort of, but engage with it differently.
Like with Kata, when she's following you, she's resurrecting minions. So by the end of the
Yeah.
map, you've got a massive pile of
Like
corpses.
the necromancy thing going on.
She walks away happy with her new pile of corpses or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could like
As I
maybe you could
conceded.
even you could get as many corpses as possible. Like you could try and like capture as many as possible, and it becomes like a little mini game that you could have. You could also ignore it and just get whatever, like as
Yeah.
you're speeding through. But you could like min max it a little bit to gain even more favor. Like vegan, right? You can have like multiple. Like it could spawn like 3 exiles around or whatever, or
That'd
3
be a cool.
like bandits lurking around trying to murder you. His like whatever.
Yeah, but I think then they would have to. So this would be like a good opportunity for players at the start of Path of Exile to get actually like excited about the game too. For instance, I think they should be rare, and I think they should be quite powerful. Where if you like start off the game and you see like Elrion on the coast, and you're like dying to every zombie and you don't know what the fuck's going on, but then Elrion's like running around with a big hammer just blasting things away in a really cool fashion, then the player goes like, oh shit, if I keep playing the game, then I can be like this exile and then gonna be more powerful. And I think this could translate to maps too.
That was something I was actually going to reach into later. So another thing that I was going to say, but I got kind of angry with the whole specific thing earlier, is that you could then also have it so that you then encounter the exiles for the first time at specific points. So you know how like you encounter Navali for the first time in the cage. So you can space out, and that's another way to make leveling slightly more interesting. So if, as you said, like, you know, on the coast you meet Elrion for the first time, and he like helps you out for that one zone, then he pisses off, you're like, oh, that was a cool guy. So then when you meet him later, it feels natural. So that way you can really like flesh out the story behind everyone. Like with how it's Zana, you get to Act 10, and then she's like, yo, Excel, come here. She has her separate lab. She gives you your first map, and you can explain systems. So that's also a nice way that you can then explain how crafting works. You know, so you can have...
Yeah, that'd be
Tarke,
nice.
how do you justify Zana not coming into the map and helping you, huh? Checkmate, dude.
Which she can, though, but it could be the same thing with like Haku, though, right? So it could be Haku, once you've killed the granddaddy crab or whatever, he gives you like a mini quest, and then that's like he gives you an alk, and like it's a very basic tutorial. It shows people, oh, if I use this alk on my bow, I now have a rare bow.
No.
Okay, cool. And then you go forward.
They give you a selection of unique items.
Yeah, exactly. But like, do you kind of get like the idea then? Like, you can use this way to teach people how the game fundamentally functions, feed lore into them, and that way build more of an individual relationship with each master, so you're happy with them later on.
Oh, I would actually love that. If you're leveling and then you choose to align with a certain master, then this like, because thematically they all make sense, right? Karina's like the zombie lady, Elrond's like the no pants guy. Like it makes sense so that if you're like a melee person, clearly in your thoughts, you can differentiate between, oh, I don't want to align with, I don't know, this rogue guy. I want to align with the guy with the big two-handed sword, right? And so you could choose that, and therefore, while leveling, you could have like a selection of unique items, and that way leveling would also kind of improve, even though it would break it a little bit. But like small things like that would make a lot of sense. But I do think that the system primarily needs to work in end game, and that's like the biggest question mark for me. Because end game, it's still not enough. Even if they run around with you, If the hideouts are still there,
But what is it you want?
I'm not sure.
For fuck's sake.
I mean, I don't know, like how engaging, like, how much does Masters actually have to influence our gameplay?
Yeah.
I,
Like, do we
it's-
want big
It's a
quests
rework
like
from
what Zana
GGP.
has?
It seems
Sure.
major.
For like each mass, do we want some sort of boss or mini boss that you're building up to or something over a gameplay loop?
Yeah.
For like what Zana has? You can build up to Shaper and Uber Elder. Obviously not on that level, not on that kind of scale where it's
Yeah, but
also tied to the Atlas and everything, but
The thing is, there's so much
I
shit
don't
in
know.
PoE now that
Yeah.
to me, this would need to be something that is like very, not very rare, but like really occasional, but very impactful.
Hmm.
So yeah, either they would need to be much more powerful, but then how the hell do you scale somebody who's playing like a Sunder Gladiator versus somebody who's playing like Volspark in a map? You know, you can't really scale them
You
based
can
off of
quite
like the meta
easily.
builds or
You
the
can scale
gameplay.
stuff with percentage kind of buffs. Tor could give you a 5% movement speed buff or a 5% animation speed buff. Like there are ways that you can inadvertently buff
Yeah, but it's
people
not
when you
very
encounter them or
engaging.
whatever. But then you
It's
get
not
the
very engaging versus them actually like throwing down and fucking shit up, you know?
but that's what I
think,
was saying, that you then get like the mini chain at the end of it. You get like a boss or whatever. Or I mean, this kind of a system. We in the last like 10 minutes we've talked about how this would potentially rework leveling and rework an entire old system, potentially change crafting and change hideouts. Like that's quite a major like addition, you know.
I think they can do a lot to like.
If you just look at something like the bestiary, they had a lot with crafting there.
Could implement into the Masters. I mean, there's a lot they can do with the just the crafting portion of the Masters, which would be really nice. So I think that's like one place where they can do big improvements. Are we okay?
Yeah, I accidentally unplugged my headphones. As well as I prepared for this episode, I've had a complete power outage and I've unplugged my headphones. I'm on a roll today.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but I think like in that space, there's a lot that they can do in terms of just giving us a lot more content and how we engage with it. And then I think this thing that they have to be random and like they have to be like scattered and we can't. But why? Like you can choose when you go for Uber or you can choose when you go do whatever. Like just okay, today we're gonna work on Elrion, and a lot of this stuff will just be working towards like one Elrion big boy dude, and we can engage with them a lot today.
So rather than being a league mechanic on par with something like Rogue Exiles or Breach or something like that, you want Masters to be more of a farmable thing that you can focus on, like trying to target down a boss or trying to target a certain map or something like that.
Yeah, and you opt into the
Could it-
specific master.
Could it then tie into the Atlas where you have different quadrants or different sections of the Atlas where those masters will spawn? So Elrian will show up in library and temple tile sets, and Zana will show up in, I don't know, Zana can just show up everywhere because she's a map master. Tora will show up in like beach, maybe not beach, you know, you get down to the specifics
How
like forest
about-
tile sets.
How about like taking the aligning with somebody's system and then giving it a downside and an upside, right? So the upside would be that, hey, I'm aligned with Elrion and he's my best friend now, but Elrion, Vagan cheated on his wife. His wife cheated on him with Vagan or something, and now they don't like each other. And so everyone's trying to be with you in like more maps, but then
Vagan's trying to
whenever
mess
he sees
you up.
Vagan, he's like, this motherfucker, and you guys have a fight, and it's like an extra exile thing.
That's cool.
And
It's
they
kind of like
be
a
countered
Shaper
or
Elder
something.
kind of vibe where you're fighting one, helping another. That could be interesting.
Yeah. And then you're losing experience with this guy, but like gaining more with this guy. And you have to have this trade-off, and it fluctuates constantly. And that's how you justify it. I don't know. But then I don't
think
know.
that's a good idea. I like that.
Crafting
That
would be
sounds cool.
tied to it.
I like it whenever the players are asked a question that they like. It's like, oh, do you want to help this guy, and then get angry with that guy? I really like those kind of things where you make a decision, and you kind of like have to deal with the consequences of that.
And
I
that's the
agree with
beauty
you
of like
generally.
bandits too, right?
Say that again?
I agree with you generally on that front. I actually agree pretty wholeheartedly that I like when there's opportunity cost and when there's significant choices that have to be made. But the one thing that I took issue with there was the provided master crafting is still tied to master levels. I don't like the idea of losing XP with the faction you're aligned against, even though it does make sense conceptually if you're talking about being aligned with factions. Like one dislikes you, so you lose favor with them. It's still going to feel really shitty as a player when you've invested all this time to get Vegan to 8, and now you can do his mastercraft. And then because you want to also have the option to craft with Elrian, suddenly, well, fuck you, you can't do the Vegan craft.
Yeah, I can see
No,
that.
there
I
has
think
to
that's
be
There's
such an
some issue
embedded
if you're trying to
system.
align it with the current system. I see that.
Yeah, but it's a rework for a reason. Like,
True. And maybe master crafting is just going to be a completely different beast after.
Someone also
besides,
had
maybe you can
the
make it
idea
permanent
in
too.
chat where what if crafting instead of costing currency costs reputation, since you were worried about how reputation would work, Raiz.
Huh.
That's an interesting
It
one.
would.
Like, you can't craft until you find this guy again and get a little bit more reputation because he
No,
did you
like
a
that's
favor
like
last
that's
time.
what the cost would be. So instead of it being like a scour or an alk, it'd be like 1,000 reputation.
For the lower tier currencies, it may not be an issue, but master crafting is actually a fairly significant exalt sink if we're talking about like end game crafting.
It could be reputation or this, maybe like they could have a one or the other or something.
I like that more. You can either like put in the currency, or you can just take more time to do more maps and then find more of this guy and then just pay for it with currency because you're trying to save up for something to trade with. I would like that, sure. That's a cool system too.
So it could be like 1 exalt or 100,000 reputation or something.
Yeah.
It would solve the issue that I brought up briefly earlier, where in order to make masters an enjoyable system that you're happy to see, like you were saying you wanted people to have, you give them a reward that's relevant past the final craft, past level 8. And that reward that's relevant would be the ability to spend rep on crafts.
Or again, we could make it like what we talked about before. This was a suggestion on Reddit where this system would make even more sense with making it so that all master crafts are available at all times, by having higher reputation decreases the cost of it.
Yeah, I like that.
Then this would make sense because you could just like, I'm best friends with Elrond now, fuck Vajan. And then, your Elrond's going to be significantly cheaper, but this guy's going to be a little bit more expensive. But since you're not focusing on those crafts, it doesn't necessarily affect you as much.
They'd have to make it so that the alignment system, in that case, if you have a significant reward like that, they'd have to make it so the alignment system can't be changed quickly, because otherwise it wouldn't actually be too relevant, right? Because whenever
it
you
would
do a
still
certain
be
craft,
back and
relevant.
forth,
swap.
right? Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
even
no,
if it's
that
not an
would have to
alignment
be.
system, even if it's just like assuming they keep the current level 1 to level 8 version, at level 1 you have access to all the crafts, and then at level 8 they cost 1/3 or 1/5 as much. So that way you level it up and you're like, yay, I leveled it up, I can now do this for cheaper.
So yeah, you can have a level 1 Katarina who really doesn't like you. So she's like, because she doesn't like you, yeah, I can give you the level 8 craft,
But it's going to cost you a lot, yeah.
it's going to cost you like
I like that.
8x instead of 2 now.
The other good thing about that is it doesn't force people into doing content they don't like. Because like with the current system, like a lot of people leveled the Leo this league because they wanted the Leo crafts, because the Leo crafts were quite powerful, and that was terrible. No one enjoys that. Whereas this could be like, oh, I can't be fucked, so I'll just overpay for it.
Yep. I would be a big fan of that. I honestly think that that's exactly what they're gonna do. I don't know about the other systems, but this if they keep masters tied to crafting with benches and stuff like this, then this would be 100% the system that they're gonna do. Okay, 95%.
we saw some wiggle room, so you can back out. Smart.
Yes.
I didn't say 100. I said 99.
No, I mean it's a pretty bold prediction because there's so many ways of approaching this, and there's a reason why I'm a basement nerd and they're the developer of a game. It's hard to come up with concepts, and GGG always surprises with these sort of things. But I don't know. This is one of those things that just sounds right.
Yeah, I think almost no matter what comes out, it's maybe elements of what we've talked about here are going to be in it. But I
think the whole crafting thing might be a little. There's a lot of things coming into that. I'm not 100% that we have that one very nailed down. On everything else, I would agree.
Okay, one thing that we've kind of completely skipped then, since we know they're doing something to Masters, is there anything they would do to Masters which wouldn't be an improvement at this point? Is there anything that if they change, you'd be like, oh, I missed that one thing? I think daily anything would be an improvement at this point, or is there something you would miss?
I mean, they could roll back the change that makes Masters teleport to you when you finish a mission. Like that's.
But that's
an
not an
easy one.
improvement they're going to do, Octavian. Like,
No, it's not. But you asked.
okay, sure.
Hmm,
Because it seems like it's just
They
something.
could
No,
force us
really.
down like a long quest line.
reasonable.
Like they could force us like a down quest line. I don't know, that you didn't really want to do.
Or in general, yeah. What if it would have like it would be like Atlas or Delve, where it would be like a story with masters, and based off of the decisions that you would make, helping out a master in certain cases, other masters would like have a problem with it or something, and then you would have all these choices, and then you would get a good or a bad ending.
Bad ending being, yo, buddy, you can't craft anything. Get
Yep.
fucked.
Yeah, fucked.
Okay, but basically we kind of agree that nearly anything they do will be an improvement at this point, so we're just optimistic for change.
No.
No?
Well,
Very
Whoa.
worst. At the
Well,
very worst, I think.
I mean,
the
they
last.
could announce that they're going to be releasing masters on mobile or something, so that would be a problem.
Hey.
But I mean, that's just about the only thing that I can think of.
Okay.
I think they could definitely like mess it up. I don't think they're going to. I think they have a pretty good idea of what are good ideas, but in terms of like making masters, like more daily missions and shit, stuff like that, going more down on that line.
Okay, that's interesting.
More daily missions.
Yeah.
That would be a yikes.
Yeah, I
I'll
don't
be
like.
so...
Do I personally really don't like daily missions just from the fact that I
like
feel
feeling that you had to like one
Yes.
daily mission chain, right? It's like now you have to do 5 missions, you get your big reward at the end. So now instead of like spending like 2 minutes, you're forced to spend like half an hour. I mean, that would be terrible. You feel like you're like obligated to do it, and now you have to like do all of them to be efficient. Things are like where you feel like the only way to be efficient is for me to spend time on something I don't like is really bad.
my biggest issue with daily missions isn't so much the fact that they're daily, but it's there's nothing worse. Like if I can't play for a weekend or a week, and I feel like I've lost a week's worth of progression. Like when the daily is tied to something very important. Like you have this a lot in WoW, for example. It's like if you do your dailies every day, you will reach this exalted reputation at this month. You will get your super high eye level helmet this month. And if you missed a week at any point, you're just behind everyone else and you feel trash. I hate it when there's something like that. So if they did enforce dailies, I would feel bad. An example of a daily which I kind of like is when you get just a small like reward. Like, oh, you've logged in today, here's a tiny bit of gold. Like they do that a lot of like free-to-play games. So you're like, okay, and if you've missed a week, you haven't like fucked yourself, but it's enough incentive to log in. Or they also have it where it's like you can save up a daily for like 3 days or 5 days. So if you can't play for a day or two, you can like go back and cash them all in at once or something.
You think they would do something where like you've got a selection of dailies? Like, yeah, you can do this daily, but you really don't like it. So you can choose to do another one instead that like caters more to your build. Something like choosing a map with Xana is right now. Would that make it more fun?
That would be something. I feel like I would want more, but that would be a improvement.
But that's kind of like admitting defeat, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, you don't like this, then well, never mind actually, because PoE is so customizable. One person will like something because of their build, and another person won't because their build just sucks for it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, before we finish up, does anyone have any actual ideas for the 3.5 League? And also, one thing I just want to throw out, just as a random fact, there are apparently 125 people who work at the GGG office, and I just want to like say that because a lot of people think of them as a garage of 2 people. So whenever we have these discussions, like that's not reasonable.
It's actually fewer than I would have thought.
Wait, what?
125 employed by GGG, apparently.
That's just
would've-
in office. Like there might
Oh,
be
that's
like
in
loads
office,
more.
okay.
That's just the last
Contracted
number
That's a
I've
lot of
had.
people.
In one building, that's a lot. in my
That's a
opinion.
lot of people.
Yeah.
On one game.
Is it in one building? Isn't like a big chunk of that just support?
The
They're
reason
not all developers, right?
The reason why,
No.
again, they might be a mix of whatever. The only reason I know this random number is I was randomly talking to Bex, and she was talking about the vending machines they have, and they've got like massive vending machines, and you said, yeah, they have to get refilled every day because there are 125 people in the office. So there are that many people in their office who use their vending machine. So that's
125 isn't a lot. I
that's
think it's a lot.
That is a lot, yeah.
There's a lot of people. I mean, how many people work on, like, say, something like Hearthstone?
Yeah.
How much is like, on Overwatch? How many people are on those teams?
I'm not sure actually.
The company developed Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt, self-funded budget, 81 million, 3.5 years. The project began with 150 employees, eventually growing to over 250 in-house staff over 3 years to make it The Witcher 3. I feel like 125 people is fucking plenty to develop a game like this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like so many.
Well, they've got a good track record, so it seems to be working.
Mm-hmm.
And again, 125 doesn't mean 125 devs. That could be like 50 devs and then 20 people working in support, then like 5 people in accounting, or you know, it's not straight.
That many
one-to-one.
devs? I don't think it's that many
There's
devs.
not that many, but there might be something like there could easily be a team of like 15 artists, you know, and then there could easily be a team of like 5 coders, and then it's quite easy to like, you know, stretch it out.
I'm trying to find out how many devs there were for Diablo 3.
Oh god.
I don't think they disclosed these numbers. Oh, on Diablo fans. There's
How
something.
many devs for Diablo Immortal?
Too soon.
The
Too soon.
Bethesda's team of 100 are working on Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim in 3 years. 3 years, Skyrim, 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, shit, man.
No, 100 people
25 is a lot.
I mean, that's a big studio for one game. Like, if everyone's just focused on that one thing.
What was the closing point, Turkey?
Did anyone have any thoughts on League? And then I mentioned a number, and everyone's googling numbers.
Numbers are strange, wild beasts. I don't know, man. I don't want to throw out a prediction because I'm just gonna end up being wildly wrong, because at every turn the last few leagues GGG has amped it up and, you know, exceeded the expectations I've had going in at the very least. So if they're saying this is going to be larger than what was it that they said in the post? I think larger than Incursion, larger than
Best race, larger than Delve, so it's just be the
Bestiary, larger
biggest
than
thing
Delve.
ever. Yeah.
Oh, Bestiary and Incursion are a whole different scale than Delve, I think.
Yeah. And like apparently it's going to be another step up over that. So I'm not even like sure what that would look like.
Yeah, but you have to keep in mind that this is the December expansion, and even
Yeah.
more, they're moving it a week back so that it's more in line with Christmas and everything like this. Like this is the big thing we get every year.
Yeah. This is what they're trying to make into a home run. They're trying to hit it out of the park.
This is always the highlight of the year. This will be their biggest
Especially
thing.
after BlizzCon.
Like,
Especially-
so I
Like,
don't want to
that's
make a
gonna happen,
prediction
I mean.
because it's just gonna be wrong.
It's not like GGG didn't know exactly what's going
You
on
know,
with
this
Diablo.
this is
They've
gonna
known
be-
for weeks.
I don't know. This is going to be on the scale of like one of the big Atlas expansions we've had, or, you know, Fall of Oriath release possibly, or something along those lines, like a huge revamp potentially.
Did they ever clarify what their primary focus is for this stuff? Like they would say in the
Aside
past,
from
like this is
Masters,
filler
no.
league. Like
the,
this is a
the,
filler
the
league.
last
this
one
is
was
a league that-
retention. I don't think they've officially stated like what their one thing they wanted to fix was with this one.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
if
that's
we try and
interesting.
map it out, so Harby was they wanted to fix the leveling, then Elder Shaper Uber Elder was trying to fix Atlas. So they fixed leveling in quotations, they fixed Atlas in quotations. Then they tried to fix retention, and that's when we saw like it makes sense. Like Bestiary would be in a way to fix retention, like trying to add a new game mode to the game. Same with kind of Incursion, new side activities, Delves, new side activities. So it'll either be like they either keep trying to push that. Or it's going to just be, just complete overhaul of, like, crafting in general, masters in general, lore, all that stuff.
Trading master.
I would, if I think if we were to ever get trade improvements, trade would kind of make sense around about now. Did you guys, I don't know if this was official, did you guys see the image of the PoE PlayStation? It was like a Chinese poster or something, and it was a Slayer, and it was like all in Chinese writing with a PS4 logo.
Yeah.
Like, they've had, the trade is shit on Xbox, like people hate the trade system on Xbox. So if if it's already bad on one console and you're gonna port it to a new console, you'd want to have the trade like good for it, surely.
The thing is, maybe that's like Xbox trade kind of scares me a little bit because I worry that that's what GGG thinks trade should be, and that if given a clean slate one way or another, that might be a direction they attempt to implement trade. Something similar to that.
How does it work exactly? Just real quick.
The Xbox, so you have really limited search functions.
Oh yeah, right.
And it's sort of like just a poster, and you go to the poster board and you type in what you use said limited search functions to type in what you want, but you can only search for like a handful of things, and you search really general things, and then it just spits out a ton of items at you, and you have to scroll through them manually.
I've seen an example which someone was like, they wanted to buy, I think they couldn't search for like a specific amulet or something, so they had to just search for amulet and then like scroll through every listed amulet, was something I saw someone talking about. Which, if you could imagine like only being able to search for like movement speed boots, and then have to scroll through every single one so you found the one with like the resist you wanted, or...
I hope that part of the reason why the system is so limited is trying to keep it relatively simple, and because of the constraints of the system it's on, because of Xbox and the UI constraints in that, and that it's not because that's what GGG wants trading to look like. And they were given a clean slate to implement their own vision of trade, because really I think that's just like hugely detrimental to the game and to newer players potentially being able to reach end game stuff. Because I was talking over some of the gear pieces in my current build, and what was it specifically? I was talking about Hail Negator, which I'm using. It's the new unique helmet that drops from Kurgle, and it's really, really powerful, a little bit underrated at the moment. And someone in my chat who plays on Xbox said that like a 2-socket Hail Negator on Xbox is like 10 or 11x or something. Partially because the player base is small, and partially just because the trade system is so hard to actually interact with and so crap.
Jeez.
A guy in chat said you can only search for base types.
Oof.
So you would just like search like 2 stone boots. And
Is that really?
Honestly,
can't
this
be
is
that
not.
much.
This is
That
not how
sound-
they want it. This is okay. They're
That
not. It's
sounds
not what they want
too far.
PC trading to be. It's just not.
Yeah.
Why would they make the whole like they've already embraced the PoE trade, right? They made their own thing, developed their own thing. It's like
yes, they have. I just don't know
They
if
couldn't do
embrace is
anything
the right word.
else. Yeah, I don't
Accept
agree
it.
with embrace.
I think accept it.
they're not
is a
gonna
better
go
word.
back on that.
Yes.
Like GGG doesn't
Well,
go
they
back on
couldn't.
this.
They could
No,
never
like,
go
they
back
can't.
on it.
No, exactly. They can't do that anymore. They've already
But
accepted this is how
I
it is.
feel for my Xbox brethren. I want them to have the sweet honey of trade, of being able to actually, get
Sure.
the specific gear you need for your build and get cool, like, I want this corruption on this item with these rolls. I want to be able to balance a Wizoke.
Oh,
I would
man.
be so
I think
impressed
this
with someone
is
balancing a Wizoke on Xbox.
Sure, it's just harder to do. Some of these things are harder to do on Xbox. It's just how it is.
Yeah,
It's a
I
different
agree.
environment. I don't think it's like that bad that just you can't get the same things. Some things will be cheaper as well on Xbox.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody describe Path of Exile's trade experience as sweet honey.
Comparatively,
That's
it's a little rancid, but at least it's there.
Also, for the guy in chat, apparently someone's calling me out because I complain about power creep in Path of Exile, but I'm against Xbox trade. 1, I play SSF, so it doesn't affect me either way. But 2,
Whoa.
not wanting to shoot myself in the face doesn't mean that I don't think faces are generally important to look after. The current trade system is bad, and power creep is an issue, but the fix isn't let's just delete trade, You don't have a spot on your nose and go, let's just cut off the nose. That got rid of the spot. There you go. Come on, Hammy.
Any more bold predictions?
Well, okay, just briefly, the loosest possible theme. So we've had Pokemon, we've had time travel, we've had deep, infinite underground mining. What are we feeling?
Deep
Space? Oceans?
Deep ocean. They've got a bunch of tile sets that could be used for it. We've got Brine King, we've got, sandbars and oceanic tile sets and stuff. And it would be really cool to do like actual underwater zones.
And that fits with my prediction of green also. No problem. Yeah, I like that. Deep ocean. Oh, wait. Deep ocean, though.
it
Everything's
fits with
so
a lot of the
deep now
themes.
and
Yeah,
coming from the ground.
They've had Abyss was deep down, Delve was deep
It
down.
fits with so many of the themes of Path of Exile, though. Like strange influences from unknown other realms, that sort of shit. Tentacled creatures. There's a lot of tentacled creatures.
How about New
Maybe
Worlds?
It's going to be in the air.
I like Worlds.
I'm gonna go with New Worlds.
Worlds is
That's
cool.
mine.
One thing that I always liked, just as a concept, and it was something from Diablo 3. In Reaper of Souls, there was that giant demon, which when you killed it, it fell on the floor and had a portal on its head. I always thought that was kind of cool. When you have monsters which kind of come in through another world, when you kill them, you can go back through it. You kind of imagine with Beyond, if you kill a bunch of Beyond stuff, but then you can jump back through the Beyond portal. I think that'd be pretty sick.
So, sort of like Abyss Delves, but every time you get a delve? Or not delve, sorry, Abyss Depth, but every time you get a depth?
Maybe.
You kill a bunch of Abyss monsters and then you get to visit the Abyss. That's sort of what happened with that league.
Okay.
Yeah, what's the opposite Harbinger, by the way? What's do we have are they?
We
are they
travel
against-
inside of ourselves.
Dude, do you want to hear something really
You
stupid?
teleport inside of yourself and you have to save your own organs.
Okay, how about this?
Exploding.
This will
It's a
never
very bold
happen,
one.
but it's dumb enough that it could happen. There are giant flying pirate ships. The
Of course.
pirate ship flies above the map. They come down like ropes to kill you. You kill the pirates and you climb up the rope and you can raid their pirate ship in the sky.
Are they
I
ghost
actually would like
pirates?
that.
Yeah, it could be ghost pirates. That could be cool. It could be Fairgrave ghost ships.
Yeah, we need a flying thing.
Boom, that's fucking go.
maybe
That's
it's
sick.
This could be like a Blizzard collab. PoE Ghost. We're finally getting it.
And we're all getting high from the Diablo 3 announcement. I mean, this makes sense.
Oh boy.
Hmm?
I mean, bigger than Delve. That's the key thing here. All of these ideas are so goddamn far flung because bigger than Delve. What?
Okay,
Everything we said will happen in PoE.
I can make the idea
just so
bigger.
we're clear, somewhere down the line.
I can make the
There
idea
will be,
bigger.
I'm predicting it. There will be a thing where we minimize ourselves and travel through our own, intestines and stuff.
Okay,
It's gonna happen.
That's just running a malformation map.
No. What you do is once you get on the ghost ship and you loot the ghost ship, you then ride the ghost ship and plunder other ghost ships, and now we get naval warfare. That's the thing that's currently missing from PoE.
Path of Exile, Black Flag.
But Path of Exile, Ghost Black Flag.
With gnomes
Yeah,
at the end of rainbows.
let's go.
Hmm?
You're welcome. Twitch chat.
No, and then what you do is you jump off the ghost, the ghost ship, and that's how you end up on the Battle Royale island. It's the new sky boss. It makes sense.
They could do a 2-part thing. So let's say it's not in the air, but it's actually in the water, and you actually, if you lose the encounter, then you go in the water, and you have different types of encounters, so that if you continuously fail, you keep getting deeper and deeper, and then at the bottom with Satan and he hits you. I don't know.
We're still going.
No, something where it's multi-layer. I would really like something where it would be multi-layered so that it wouldn't be what Shaper and Elder is, right? With portals. I really like how you can fail it through just running out of portals and you just don't have enough resources to continue. So content like that would be really cool if it was just a core element of PoE. So if you're inside of a map, you can continuously fail to the point where, eventually you get severely punished.
kind
right?
of like
the same
the
way like
soul
incursion was
system.
on a timer and stuff like this. I think that would be cool.
So what, like the soul system in Dark Souls, where like you die, you lose all your shit, you gotta go pick it up, and then if you die again, you're like, oh, rip, you know.
Well, kind of, maybe, yeah. Well, something like that, but not obviously with dying and picking up
Yeah,
souls.
yeah.
But like similar ideology, sure. Trying to like climb out of somewhere that you failed at.
I think whatever it is, it's going to be something completely and utterly insane. Does anyone have anything they would like to close on before we wrap up the second part of this Baeclast episode?
Diablo 3 Immortal. By the way, it actually happened.
It's not just been a dream.
It's not a dream. It really happened. You guys are
It's
here.
kind of ironic though. They call the game immortal when it's dead.
Fuck's sake!
I think those are appropriate closing thoughts, yeah.